Hello, fellow Minecrafters. Gearsaw Studios here. Today, I'm going to show you how to build an aquarium because, having an aquarium in your house is cool. That's pretty much it. However, before I begin, remember, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. So, with that, onto the tutorial. Now, for this build's palette, we are going to be using gray concrete, glass, sea lanterns, smooth sandstone, sand, and all versions of coral, including the normal coral, the blocks, and the fans. So, two notices. One, if you're not using connected glass mods or on Bedrock and not using seamless glass texture packs, then it might not look as good. So, you might want to pursue other things such as chains instead of glass, unless you're okay with the grid pattern. And if you're wondering how you keep coral alive outside of the water, you can actually have water below stuff like this. So, if you want to have coral outside the aquarium, just place water below it and it will stay alive, even if it's not visually touching it. So, now you want to find a decently sized area. So, I'm not going to connect this to any build, but the best place is inside of a house or fortress or possibly even a mall, possibly build an entire aquarium around it. But of course, this is only just one fish tank in the aquarium, so I recommend not choosing a terribly large area. Now that you've chosen the area, establish the shape. So I'm going to do about 7 blocks on each side, and make sure the corners are sea lanterns to keep it lit up on the outside. Then you can just do various shapes and whatever you want with it. But remember, the more unique it is, the better. So now we have a general shape for this build. And there's one thing you might want to do before completely setting on this design. So obviously this would just, go upwards. But what you might want to do instead of, just placing the glass like this, is instead placing it one block inward, which would require you to make the entire build one block bigger on the other axis. So if you like this design where it's sunken in more, then you can expand it by one block on all axes. Also, if you want to be pressed against a wall, you might want to add light blue concrete to the palette, because it simulates an endless ocean. So, just the little things you can do. So, I've solved the issues I had with this place by just expanding it a little. So, now what we should do is just start doing the walls. So, what you want to do below the glass, it can be whatever you want. You could just make a double layer and fill this in with water or concrete like this. But I'm just going to go with some basic sand under here. So, I recommend just filling in this place with sand, because it's just a simple neutral block you can use. And it's going to be just about everywhere in the build. So, sand is not a bad choice, though you could use different blocks in case you don't like the look of sand. So, the look of glass on sand I did not like too much, so you can just add in some cyan terracotta for the palette. So, now what we want to do is just fill in the entire area with sand. So, no terraining yet, just basic sand. And along with that, you should establish an upper limit to the glass walls. So, a good option is just figuring out how big this is. So, this is a 9 by 9. So, I'll just go up about 9 blocks. But if you think that's too tall, you can reduce it to just the inner area. So, this inner area is 7, so we can make this 7 blocks tall. So, you might have to do a little bit of basic math, but it should not be too difficult to get it right. So, like this, now that we have the math calculated, we can fill in the area with sand, and we can get some glass in. So, we have some glass, and we have some sand. I also added a support pillar at the corner of this curve right here. So, you can also do the roof out of glass, so that way you can see the water, but the main thing is this back wall. So, for the purpose of this build, we're not going to have this also be glass, because we're going to pretend this is actually inside a big building, which there isn't. So, what we want to do is place down some light blue concrete. So the way you can do this, it's up to you. But just placing down light blue concrete and then just deciding how it looks is a good place to start. So you can see it borders the glass here, but it might look okay. So experiment with different ways you can place it, because who knows, you might like one thing over the other. Now we have the blue background and we have the cyan terracotta. So, of course, we need to fill this up with water. So, what you should do is create an infinite water source, so a 2x2 area in a corner, and then just repeatedly just place down water buckets using the infinite water source as a basis. Or, if you're feeling kind of lazy, you could just use the ceiling and make it all just there. However, experimenting with different ways to fill up a room is a pretty fun task. So, I recommend trying it out, because once you do this, it looks very satisfying. Now, we have our man-made aquatic environment. So, now it's just a neat area to swim in. But, of course, there's way more you can do. So, what we need to do first is start terraining. So the best way to do this is, instead of, just placing down sand and calling it a day, you can place down smooth sandstone slabs, and it's a lot smoother. So, of course, when you get close to it, you can tell it's sandstone and not sand, but from afar, as in outside the fish tank, then it's just a lot more recognizable as sand. So, what you can do is just place down the sand, and don't forget, these back walls are pressed against the wall themselves. So you can add stuff to that, like this, and it still looks natural. Although, this thing is not endless. So start by just terraining the area around. Then we can add the coral and small structures later. So with this terraforming in, now what we need to do is add some structure and life into this build. So, at least one underwater castle made out of sandstone is a good choice. So, what you do is place sandstone stairs in this pattern, to unaffected to cornered, then place slabs on top of it, and now we just kind of have this little cove thing. So, what we can do from here is we can convert some of the top slabs into stairs. So, although it's not necessarily the most convincing castle, it's still something to fill in the void. So, you can do various little things, and you can just edit the shape, because stairs are just fun things to work around with. So, try adding at least one structure to this build, whether it be an ocean monument, some ocean ruins, just whatever you can think of. So, I discovered that building a sand castle in this small size is very hard. So, just a very simple approach you can do is 4 sandstone walls in a grid shape, which just creates a little castle like this. Nothing too complicated, and along with that, you can add little towers, just sandstone walls with slabs on top of them. So, this place is looking pretty good in terms of structures. Now, we just need some fauna and fish. So, what you want to do is bone meal the area a little. So, not too much, because otherwise you're going to have too much seagrass. So, what you want to do then, after you finish that, is get your coral in. So, don't be afraid to replace the ground. So, like this, you can add some coral here and there. Don't go overboard with it, but don't forget it can ride up the walls. So, it's going to take a while to do this, but what you want to do is add as much coral as you can without it going too crazy. So, it should take up about 10 to 15% of the build. So, I've added sea pickles, a lot of coral that covers a lot of the ground, and overall just made this place look more lived in. However, no one currently lives in here. So, we need to add things. So, obviously, you should, cram everything in here that you can find in the sea, but that's not the best idea. Because although you can have all these cute tropical fish in here and some cod, dolphins here and there, you have to account for something else. the fact that not everyone gets along. So, you can't have guardians and squids in the same tank, and you can't have axolotls with just about anything. So, you have to be careful who ends up in here and who's not in here, because certain things might hunt each other down. So, once you get all your fish in here, then you might as well just, hang out around here. Possibly add some chairs, and overall just incorporate it into the rest of your base. So, the build is done. You have a lot of coral in here. You have some fish that hopefully don't kill each other. You have some structures here and there, and you have some casing to go around it all. So, overall, I think it's an amazing thing to add to any base, even if you're living in, say, a desert or have an amazing pyramid like over there. It's still a worthwhile addition because certain things just look better than others, and having a giant splash of color inside an aquatic environment just about anywhere makes it look very cool. So, I'd highly recommend building an aquarium somewhere in your world. So, with that, it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. So, with that, take care, enjoy your new aquarium. Gearsaw